Hey everyone, I have someone special here with me today. Her name is Adora Nwodo. Adora is a software engineer currently building mixed reality on the cloud at Microsoft. She's also the author of the popular book Cloud Engineering for Beginners. This book is currently helping a lot of people start their career as cloud engineers. Adora is also a a popular digital creator, I have to say, public speaker, and the VP of the VRAR Association in Nigeria. Adora, you're welcome. It's good to have you
Thank you.
here. Okay,
Thank you.
so I know this is not where a lot of people start. I'm going to ask you this first. What's the inspiration behind your big Nenz name? I know you use that a lot. So what's the inspiration behind that name?
So I don't know, when I was in uni, because my first name is Nene, right?
Right.
It's just that when I wanted to start this whole building your brand thing, I just thought about the fact that many people would never pronounce Nene right.
True.
Because it's not that conventional name. And Adora is my middle name. So it made more sense to use Adora because it's like I didn't now spell it the Igbo way. I took out the second A so that it's easy for everyone, even non-Nigerians. It's pronounced as it's spelled, literally. So went with Adora. But the thing is, people from my uni, they still call me Nene up to today. And when they're playing sometimes, it's like Nenz, because they used to call me Nenz. So Nenz, no problem. And then it was my birthday last year. When I posted like a picture, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And somebody commented, big Nenz.
Oh,
and then it was like a thing of, I know that it came from Big Wiz because like everybody knows that I really like Big Wiz, right? So I think it was just that thing of like, analogy, Big Wiz, Big Nenz. And I'm like, this doesn't sound bad.
Totally makes sense.
I think I want to say I decided to adopt that name properly when I just noticed that a lot of good things were happening almost at the same time. Today there's one award, tomorrow there's one this, next week there's one nomination. Like things were happening, but there was a particular month that almost every single day, when people just wake up, they're waiting for me to come and tweet because there's a new announcement and I'm coming to make. So like around that time when things were happening consistently back to back, I'm just like, this is actually a big person behavior now. So I now decided to fully adopt the name and started calling myself Big Nenz. And it's funny how everyone is calling me Big Nenz as well. It's interesting.
The name basically stuck. That's cool. That's cool. So can you share how you particularly, because everyone has a unique story, right? Getting into tech and all. So for you, what's your story? Like how did you navigate? How did you first of all get the interest? Was the interest like way back from when you were younger or just recently? And then how did you eventually start working in tech?
So how I got into tech, this story is long, but since it's a YouTube video, I'll share the long story. Normally when I'm on like Twitter spaces, I like to try to reduce it because it's so long. So I am the last born in my house and I am the only girl. And the age difference between my immediate elder brother and me is quite something, to be fair. I mean, right now he's in his 30s. I'm not going to say exactly how old he is. Right now he's in his 30s. And I'm 25. So you know how far the age difference is. So when I was younger, I used to play with them a lot, right? I mean, apart from going to school and then playing with your friends in school, when I come back home, they're like the only friends I have, right? And obviously, I used to play the games they were interested in, even if it wasn't necessarily games for people my age. So we'll be playing around with balls together, we'll be doing rough play together, riding bicycles together, all those things, right? And the next thing, my dad is like, oh, okay, my boys are now, they're done with JS3, or now they're in senior secondary school, they're in SS1. I'm going to send you to computer school so that you learn how to be computer literate, because computers are very well going to be in our future. And the next thing, during holiday, when we're supposed to be playing together, they are going to computer school in the afternoon. I'm like, I don't understand. And then when they come back, so like at some point, my dad actually bought them a computer in the house. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever you learn when you go to computer school, when you come back to my house, come and practice it. And then, I mean, you're not going to lie, at that age, even if when we try to do all those things we're doing on computers then, when we try to do it now, just like, this is what was actually even making us really, like, this is what was fascinating. But we can't lie that at that age, coupled with the fact that it was new tech, so it was shiny, it was a shiny thing, and also the fact that we were kids, it was fascinating. So they would ignore me and go and play with the fascinating thing. And then imagine you by yourself sitting down on the floor and playing with a ball, only you. At some point, I'm like, see, I can't continue like this. It was sad. I was actually very sad. And then I'm like, yeah, I went to meet them and I'm like, if we don't want to play our game again, no problem. Teach me how to play this one that you play. Let all of us play it. So it became a thing of, say the mountain does not want to come to Mohammed, don't worry. Mohammed will go. Yeah, I'll meet you there. So I went to meet them and then they started teaching me how to use computers. So I was that person that at a young age, I used to make, those movie screenplays, OJ Production presents a blockbuster movie, this one. I used to do those things in PowerPoint as early as 6 years old.
Amazing.
Right. So I used to do those things. I used Adobe PageMaker to create like brochures, like flyers at that time. They were very ugly, right? I used CorelDRAW to create complimentary cards. Very ugly complimentary cards, but I did it. And I learned how to type really fast as a child. There was the first composition, I think that's what we used to call it, right? About yourself. Well, before we got into composition, I started calling it essay. So the first composition I typed about myself, it's still in my dad's room up till now, printed, laminated. He kept it.
Interesting.
For that long. So like, I started getting into computers and I was getting really fascinated. And I remember just telling myself that I didn't know what programming was then, but I just knew that whatever I end up doing with my life is going to be in front of a computer and I'm going to work in Windows. Because I mean, at the time, in my head, Windows and Microsoft Word.
Right.
Even if it's the same company, right? My mind did not go that far. Right. But Windows, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, they were like the initial tech that I interfaced with. So in my head, if I'm going to work with computers, I'm going to work here.
Sense. Yeah.
That's what it was. And then from there, somehow I found the internet, started getting music of the internet. I found social media. I was on social media at a very young age. Don't do this for your children. Don't do this for them. I turned out fine. And the next thing I know, I mistakenly found Visual Basic and programming. I said, okay, let's do this one today. So I figured out that you could use programming to do math, and I love math. So for me, it was like, when I write code in Visual Basic, is a way for me to validate my math assignments. It's a way for me to check that the math assignments they gave me in school, the answer is correct. And I don't know whether math fueled my love for programming or programming fueled my love for math. I don't know which one, or both, to be honest. But I know that as I grew older, I loved math even more and I wanted to code even more. And then at that time now, I had known what programming was, even if I did not know what computer science was. I didn't realize computer science was a field, because I just thought that if you want to learn to code, you would go to a professional school like NIIT. You would do the coding course there, and then you get a job as a programmer. That's what I thought, right? And then my plan was to study math in the university and then learn to code. And then, and I think this is where wise counsel and having people around you that can actually advise you actually comes in. Because I remember that when I told my brother, now my eldest brother, not my immediate, when I told my eldest brother about my plans, I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. That I want to learn I want to code, right? I should just go and do computer science instead, or computer engineering. And he has a friend that was in MIT at the time. So he connected me to that friend, and I spoke. His friend was getting a master's in MIT.
Right.
But his friend got a bachelor's degree. I don't remember the school, but it was in electrical engineering. So now he was doing a computer science master's because he wanted to work in, like, do all these, he's like, all these really smart people want to do all these crazy things in tech, driverless cars, quantum, like that's how he is. And I think he rubbed off on me as well, because somehow that became the kind of tech I was interested in. So spoke to him, and then he's like, since I already know I want to code, I might as well just go and do computer science instead of going through the whole studying math and learning thing. That's, if in computer science I will still do some math. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I already knew I was going to Unilag regardless. So I spoke to some people that I knew in Unilag that were doing computer science. My mom connected me to like 2 people, like family friends. So I spoke to them, and then I found out. So I was one of those people that went into computer science knowing what I was like, and I knew what to expect. There's some people that just enter there because they think you go there and be playing with computers. Right? But like from the very beginning, I knew what to expect, because that's exactly what I wanted. So I went there, studied for 4 years. Computer science in like is 5 years. On my 4th year, that was when I got my first internship. The whole Sideways thing, at the West thing that you have to do your 6 months IT. So I did that, right? I got a job in a digital agency, and I was working there. So when I was done with the internship, and they were like, as you're going back to school, if there's anything you need, let us know. We'll be happy to help you. You've done really well with us as an intern, and we're so grateful, blah, blah, blah. Because they said I did really well, right? And I'm like, okay, thank you so much for all these things you're saying. The thing you can do for me like this is that you will not sack me. Because in my head, it's like, I don't know if I let go of this job, they would need a developer. They'll hire somebody else. It's a very small company, right? They'll hire somebody else. When I now graduate and I want to go back, they'll tell me, no space, so we can't afford this. We don't have a head count. I'll now start job hunting with only 6 months experience in my life, 6 months of internship, not even full-time. God. So that anxiety made me hold on to that job. So I went back to school in final year, and I was a working student, right? I was in school doing my final year project, all that stuff. And I was working in that agency. And full disclosure, they knew I was going to school, all of that. So they did not expect me to be joining all the Monday morning meetings and doing all of that. So they're like, okay, it's fine for you to just drop your updates in the chat. And like when there's any important work, we'll let you know, then you just go do the work. You don't have to come to the office. So once in a while, I'll go to the office just to be like, hi guys, I still work here. But like, it wasn't a thing of, it wasn't mandatory, because I had already proven myself, and they knew that I could do work. So they could leave me with work and not panic that, Nene won't do this, Nene won't do this. So I stayed there for a while, did my NY. When I graduated, I went back, spent a full year there. I did my NYSC there. And then around that time, before the end of NYSC, like just after convocation, a few weeks after convocation, we had to go back to school to collect one certificate like this for computer practitioner, something. So we went back to school, right? Well, like one certification. And then there was a lecturer that was saying, there's this boy in your class now. He has gotten into Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm like, Microsoft is not hiring engineers.
When did that happen? My goodness.
Like, how? So apparently, I now finally heard gist that Microsoft came to Unilag to do university recruiting. And there were some people in our class that held that information and decided not to share with the whole class. And I was just like, why are you people wicked?
Oh God,
like,
no.
Why? And now the guy is, planning his, relocation, is on his way to Vancouver, blah, blah, blah. And I was really hurt, because I'm like, everybody that knows me knows that the two tech companies I always wanted to work at are Microsoft and Google. So why would you know this and just decide to not tell me? I was really hurt, right? And then I was not like, I'll do my own back, because I had the contact of a Google recruiter since 2016. Okay. So there was a Google event I was supposed to go for in Switzerland, but I got denied the visa.
Okay.
So the recruiters and a bunch of people still reached out, and they're like, we're sorry you didn't get the visa. I hope that this does not, affect you wanting to work at Google. And then, so because of that, I told the recruiter that I'll still like to work at Google, but I'm still in school. So when I graduate, I'll reach out. So when I heard that Microsoft thing, you understand, Ginger, I reached out. I reached out to the Google. I'm like, sure, you people have Microsoft, and me too, I have Google. So I reached out to the Google recruiter. We had a conversation, scheduled interview dates, and then I did my first phone interview. It was at that first phone interview that I realized that I had a very big problem with stage fright. I got to that interview and I couldn't speak to my interviewer. I was so nervous that I literally fumbled the bag right there. Not because I didn't know the answer to what I was being asked, but just because I couldn't talk.
Oh, wow.
And then I also started checking patterns. I noticed that in my office, when they're like, oh, Nene, come and say this thing, I'm smiling. And I'm not talking. I'm smiling and I'm not talking.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to fix this problem. And I was now wondering, like, how did I even get this job to begin with? And then, going down memory lane, I realized that I never did an interview. I wrote an exam and I passed the exam. And that's how I got the job. So maybe if I had done an interview, I would have probably failed as well. Right. And I'm like, yeah, this cannot be my story. So I started making plans. Like I started being very intentional about public speaking because I'm like, I'm going to put myself on the spot and I'm going to overcome. Even if this one is a devil, it's going to leave my body. By the time when I put myself on the spot 3 times and embarrass myself 3 times, on the 4th time, I will receive sense.
Right.
So I started the whole public speaking thing. I went on events, but I didn't know about tech communities. I didn't know about, all of these things. But I knew that there were tech events that used to happen. Mm-hmm. And obviously, when I think events at that time, I think Eventbrite. So I didn't even know about Meetup. I didn't realize that Twitter was a place for tech people to come together. I didn't know anything about Follow. I didn't know anything about these things. So I just went to Eventbrite to filter through tech events that were happening soon in Lagos. And I found one, Codify Meetup, something. Codify, I remember. And I reached out to them like, yo, I'd like to speak here. And they're like, okay, come through. And I shared like my stuff with them. And I went there and I spoke. And it was my first talk. And it was my
How did that go?
Most horrible talk.
Oh.
But somehow, I think people could tell that it was horrible because I was nervous, not because what I was saying was nonsense. Because I still got approached at that event that, would like you to come again and speak at another thing.
Right.
And I think that one was for GDG Agile or something, or GDG Corridor, one of them, I don't remember. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then, obviously, I spoke at GDG Corridor. People that will come for a GDG Corridor meetup are people in GDG and in other communities. So as I spoke there, I started meeting more community people that started inviting me to speak at their own events. So just like a thing that was happening. And around that same time was when I launched my YouTube channel as well, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to start talking in front of people. And I'm also going to learn to get myself comfortable in talking in front of a camera. Right. So it was like, for me, it was just, I want to overcome this, my public speaking. Before that, I was writing, because it's like, okay, when I learn something, I write about it. When I learn something, I write about it. Yeah. So in my head, my writing was for my career growth. And my speaking was so that I don't fumble the bag the next time I have an interview. I did not realize that my speaking was also contributing to my reputation and career growth. Right. I was writing, I was posting on LinkedIn. I was doing it the professional way. Do you get? Post on LinkedIn, write an article. This one in my head, that was always career. Then this one was just vibes, so that I can learn how to do better. But apparently, people were watching and I didn't know. So what happened was somebody from Microsoft reached out to me, a talent sorcerer. Reached out to me, and he was like that he watches my videos and he's a huge fan of like my videos. That Microsoft is currently planning to come to Nigeria next year and they'll be hiring engineers. That if it's something I am interested in, I should interview. And at that time, I was rounding up with my NYSC. And I'd had a conversation with my dad. I'd looked around. I had offers from 2 fintech companies, but to be honest, fintech isn't where I want to be. Right. If I'm being very honest. I appreciate what they're doing. I love what they're doing in that sector. God bless them. But it's not my thing, right? Maybe that might change in the future because life is funny. But at that time, it wasn't my thing. And right now, it's still not my thing.
Right.
So I looked around. I had like offers from 2 fintech companies. And I'm just like, to be honest, I would rather go abroad, go do a master's. I wanted to go to MIT to get some kind of AI masters, and then from there go to business school, and then from there, or even if possible, do the AI masters and do the business masters as well, and have like a double major and just like graduate. So I wanted to do something like that. So I had a conversation with my dad about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, do it. Get your application ready, blah 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 blah. And then once you do, let me know so that we can start thinking about school fees and the rest." So I was still trying to reaching out back to that my MIT friend and asking him, "Oh, how does GR? I need to write GREs, right? I need to get ready for this, right? Can you send me resources?" I was already making all these plans, and then next thing, the Microsoft conversation, and I thought about it deeply. Like, if I had gone to do masters and I finished the master's degree, it's still in this sector, mixed reality or cloud or AI or quantum computing, like one of all these sectors that I found interesting. It's still in one of these sectors that I would have found myself. I would have gone to work. So why delay the work 2 more years when it's already knocking on my door right now, when I can go do masters later? So I'm like, I'll defer the masters. I don't even have admission yet, so there's nothing to defer. I would defer my application and think about it some other time, and I would focus on getting this Microsoft job. If I don't get the job, then I would continue processing the masters.
I see.
And then I did, the interviews. The prayer that I prayed, I've never prayed like that in my life. Did the interviews, prayed, got ready, like read a bunch of things, learned a bunch of things, reached out to my friends that were working, because now I had a friend that was working in Amazon and I had another friend that was working in Google in the US. Reached out to them like, "Oh, how do you do software engineering interviews?" Again, having people that have gone before you that you can reach out to sometimes to just bounce ideas of, I think it's something that's very important and has helped me in my life. And I can't thank my brothers enough for this, because most of these people are actually their friends, because they've already figured out their careers. And then their small sister is just like, "I want to do this thing." And then they are introducing me to those people and I'm talking to them. So I think that's one thing that has helped me a lot. So I did the interviews, I did well, accepted the offer, and then started working at Microsoft. I quit my job in the agency June 2019 because I wanted to take the whole of July and just rest. So I quit June 2019, went on vacation July 2019, started working at Microsoft August 2019. I've been working at Microsoft ever since. I've been in mixed reality since I joined. I have worked on 2 products, currently working on my second, but still in the same mixed reality organization. I'll be 3 years in August. So it will be my 3rd year at Microsoft in August this year. Yeah, so that's the entire story.
That's amazing.
I told you it was long, right?
Yes, you did. You gave me the heads up. So let's talk about Microsoft. What would you say is the biggest impact that it has had on you, like for the 2+3 years that you've been there now?
I think how I think as a software engineer has changed a lot. I'm going from an unstructured organization, digital agencies and stuff, to a place where there is like, actual structure, a place that forces you to think like an engineer, a place that forces you to be thorough. I've done things, I've done things that have helped my mind grow, things that I didn't picture myself doing if I didn't join them. And I mean, the kind of work I'm doing as well, it's with what we're working on and the kind of things we're building, it's not something that you can easily go on Stack Overflow, do a Google search and find an answer for. So it's sometimes, some days that can be very annoying, but other days I appreciate it because it's forcing me to push myself and learn and be a better engineer.
So speaking of moving from not a lot of structure to some structure in Microsoft, if you had to move now or move to a new company and you had to choose between joining a startup and a bigger company, maybe a FAANG company, does that mean that you would consider like the FAANG more than the startup?
It's not even debatable. I'm team FAANG always.
Right. Right. So you're not into that.
Everyone around me knows that.
Okay.
Everyone around me knows that.
Cool.
I mean, I like to see startups grow. It makes me feel like, the more startups we have, the more opportunities devs that are coming up get, and the more the ecosystem grows. So I love to see things like that. However, it's like, count me out. I'm not your target audience, please. But
yeah, that's fair. I mean, different people have like their different ways
things
of
that they
wanting to
prefer.
contribute exactly to tech. For some people it might be in working in a startup. Yeah. Anyway, what are some of the things that you would do differently if you were a newbie again?
To be honest, nothing. Maybe start earlier.
Right.
maybe start, when I say start earlier, I mean like maybe start doing when I'm in uni. Because when I was in uni, it's like the only thing I was doing schoolwork and websites for family members.
Okay.
Right.
I see.
So maybe start building some kind of things earlier, and get myself exposed to more programming things, and maybe to the community as well earlier than I did. That's the only thing I would do differently.
I see.
I think I got really good advice that helped my life be very easy and just made that whole process easy. So I wouldn't think back and be like, oh, there's one mistake I made that I want to undo if I go back in time. No, I can't think of anything.
Right. Cool. So, in terms of getting advice from people and, that helping to, propel you in tech, what would you say is like the worst advice that you've ever gotten over the course of your career, if you have gotten any?
Yeah, the worst advice was for me to not be a working student. When I wanted to be a working student, I spoke to 3 elderly people, and only one told me that I should go for it. Everybody else was like, oh
face your
no,
studies.
you can't do it. Face your studies. It's going to affect you in final year. It's your final year, blah, blah. But I mean, I know myself. I know what I'm capable of, even if they don't, right? So I'm just like, I hear you guys. Thanks a lot. Peace out. I'm doing it. I'm not telling you because I'm asking you for advice. I'm telling you because I tell you things about my life. So I'm just informing you.
Right.
But I had made up my mind to do it. Yeah.
Right.
So if I had taken that person's advice, I think my life would have, I don't think my life would have turned out badly, if I'm being honest. But I think that it would have taken longer for me to get some things, or my life would have, taking a different path
direction
or something.
I see.
Yeah, because I might not be working in that, because me working in that company led to some things. It was in that company that I read Elon Musk's first book, and that inspired and that triggered some things in me. It was in that company I read Satya's book, He Refresh, and that was where I saw quantum computing for the first time, went to do research about it and fell in love with it. It was in that company that I realized that I had issues with, speaking, and I decided to work on it. So if I wasn't there, my life might have still been okay, but like it might not have been this. So yeah, I think that's one bad advice that I'm grateful I didn't take.
I see. So let's talk about imposter syndrome. First of all, I'm not going to assume that you have it. So I'll ask you, do you experience it? When do you feel like you experience it the most, if you do? And how do you handle it when it comes?
I'll tell you a story of my most recent experience.
Right.
So I've been working on something at work for a while, and I was doing really great. Like, when you're working every day, it's like your shoulder is high because everybody's praising you. And the next thing I'm done with the project, and it's like, oh, there's a new thing I'm going to give you to go work on. And then I start working on this new thing, and then I'm struggling. And then I forget that I was great 2 weeks ago, and I'm struggling. And it's like, oh my God, I feel like trash. I'm not good at this. Should I even be working here? And then they pay me salary. I look at my bank alerts. I'm like, Jesus Christ, do I deserve this salary that just so it was a very terrible time for me. And I kept putting myself down a lot. I kept putting myself down a lot because it's like, oh, I can't do this. I don't deserve this. I don't know this, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I spoke to my manager about it, right? And then he would, and I think communicating is one thing. Communicating and not being hard on yourself. I spoke to my manager about it. He would, listen and give me advice. I would feel better inside. But if I try to go back to the work, I realized that I still can't do it. So at some point, I'm like, see, please, can you give me something else to do? I feel like I've been useless on this team for like 2 months, researching something and just, like getting into multiple dead ends. I don't want to be this person anymore. I'm sure there's somebody else that has more experience that can take this project off my hands while I get into something else. And that's what happened. And it's like, sometimes don't be actually afraid to open your mouth and speak, because you're the one in your head and you're the one that knows what you're going through.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're putting yourself down, because I got to the realization where it's like, months ago, they told me to build out this entire feature. And I built it by myself, because the person I was building it with resigned to go build a startup.
Okay.
And it became only me. And nobody else came on board to help me out. So I built this thing by myself. So I know that I am capable of doing stuff.
Yep.
It's just that maybe this is not my forte. And it's fine. I got myself to that point where I understood that I was not the problem, but this is definitely, certainly not the kind of work that works for me.
Right.
And then had a conversation with my manager, took me off the project, put me on something else, and I was performing better there as well.
Wow.
So I'm just like, it just, so like, I feel like imposter syndrome comes in, sometimes it's a thing of, another example is for newbie developers, they're learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? And then they are in their CSS level of that journey. And then somebody that has 14 years experience posts that they just created a JavaScript library. And that newbie is comparing themselves with that person. That's another way that imposter syndrome comes, because you start to feel like, oh my God, I don't know how to build apps. I don't know how to do this. I'm a very useless dev, blah, 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 blah. Do you get? Which might not necessarily be the case if you think about it.
Yep.
So these are like two common ways that I know that imposter syndrome creeps in. The first way is you're comparing yourself to somebody else. The second way is you are being put on something, you're finding something difficult, and instead of you to realize that, oh, you've been doing something good in the past, so it's not about you. It's just that maybe you're not caught up for this project, or you need more time to hit the ground running. You start pinning yourself down.
I see. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so I was going to ask about your book, The Cloud Engineering for Beginners. Can you throw some light into what the book is about?
So the book is for people that already work in tech and are trying to transition into building cloud careers, or people that are new in tech and want to learn about the cloud. So it's a foundational book that would help introduce you to all these concepts that are supposed to be complicated on the cloud. And then once you're done reading this book, you are ready to take on a cloud certification or anything that can get you closer to becoming that engineer. It just opens your mind a lot more to what the cloud is actually about.
I see. Yeah, I really appreciate the idea of the book, because the idea of cloud engineering alone, it can be a bit scary to lots of people, considering most of the things that you have to learn compared to just regular software engineering or software programming. So yeah, I think it's
I wanted to use this book to debunk a myth. Like, when you talk cloud, everybody just assumes you're talking about DevOps. I don't know why.
Right.
So for everybody, it's like, oh, you're a cloud engineer and you're a DevOps person.
I was literally going to mention Kubernetes right now.
So that was a myth that I debunked in this book as well.
Right. So it's DevOps plus more as part of the cloud, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's DevOps and a lot more.
Right. Okay.
It's like an umbrella, the same way you say software engineering. And when someone says they're a software engineer, they might be doing mobile, they might be doing web, they might be doing, but they are building software. So as a cloud engineer, you are building on the cloud. Where exactly are you focused on? That's just what it is.
I see. Makes sense. So yeah, Adora, you're also a YouTuber. I've seen a couple of your videos, and I'm a huge fan of the energy that comes when you're passing across your message. I saw one recently on toxic workplaces, and I was literally screaming all through. So so besides YouTube, what would you say are your top 3 picks? Things that you find fascinating, or that you have found the most fascinating over like the course of your life. So it could be like a book that you found super interesting, a movie that you've seen that maybe not changed your life, but that had some impact in some way on you, or anything else that you really enjoy doing, actually. What would those be for you? Three things.
I find enjoyment fascinating.
You find that's the first hilarious response I've found to this I've heard.
I don't hide it at all. I don't hide it at all. I'm that person that would always advocate for people to enjoy their lives. It's like, enjoy your life. See, all the money, you don't want to finish making money in your 20s, you're forming remote work. I have 5 jobs, this one.
Right.
You finish making money in your 20s, then in your 30s, you're thinking about how you use that money you've made to go and be treating sickness. So sometimes, I feel like life is about balance. No matter how rich you are, if you are not happy in some other areas of your life, there will be dissatisfaction.
Yep.
But when there is that balance across, different spheres of your life, you actually find that there's this sort of inner peace that comes with it. I mean, I'm pro that inner peace because so I'm like, work hard. I'm a hard worker. Everybody knows that. But I also make sure that I enjoy hard, and everybody sees that too. So there is that balance. So yes, enjoyment is fascinating.
So in what ways? What are like the top 3 list of enjoyment features that you find yourself taking part in?
Number 1 used to be visiting Lagos restaurants and eating their steak and drinking their red wine, but I'm getting tired of that because I'm trying to lose weight, and Lagos restaurants have, as I'm giving them money, they are giving me calories. So I'm taking that out.
Calorie burner.
One thing that I find really relaxing is water. Let me not even say swimming. It's water. So either swimming or listening to, like, having like the Calm app, and then you're listening to like sounds of like waves and the beach, and you're just chilling, lying down and not thinking about anything, or bubble bath. So I'm a huge fan of these things because they relax me. I'm also a huge fan of, watching TV or video calling people. Because like when I'm bored, if I'm either picking up something on Netflix or even watching old series, right, or I'm picking up my phone and I'm video calling one of my best friends and we're chatting for like hours, and stuff like that. And I like 4 things. I like DJing. I don't want to make it a career.
Yeah, I saw that.
It would become stressful when I do. But right now, it's a way for me to escape, discovering new music and mixing it and listening to my mixes is one thing that I enjoy doing as well. And when I'm craving food, I like to cook. Only when I'm craving food, because I like to cook what I like to eat. When they tell me to come and cook ogbono soup, I'll be angry because I don't eat.
I see. That
but
makes
like,
sense.
if it's something I'm craving, I like to cook it because it fuels my excitement for, oh my gosh, I'm about to eat this thing in like 1 hour, and stuff like that. So that's the 4th thing for me.
Makes sense. Cool. I'm also a culprit of watching old series over and over again. I was still like talking to someone about how I have seen The Office. I don't know if you know about The Office, but The Office is a show that is I think I'm the only one that has seen that show like for close to 20 times or so, because I just keep going over and over to watch it, and it looks new to me all the time, which is quite weird, but okay. Anyway,
I did that with How I Met Your Mother. I did that.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen that too. Yeah. So yeah, Adora, what are your last words for everyone watching right now?
My last word for you would be thank you for bringing me on here. I really appreciate it,
Susan. My pleasure.
And my last word for everybody else would be that if there's something in your life that I want to go and do, please just go and do it. The worst thing that will happen is if it's a job that you want to apply for, apply. The worst thing that happens is that they will reject you. If it's a song that you want to go and sing it. The worst thing that will happen is that they will laugh at you. Like, life is short for you to hold yourself, for you to be the one holding yourself back by yourself. And I have learned that. And since I noticed that I was the one holding myself back, a lot of things about my life changed.
Major, that's profound. That's really profound. Thank you so much, Adora, for coming on my podcast and my YouTube by extension. I really appreciate you taking out time. Like, I truly, deeply, really appreciate you taking out time to come here. And yeah, hopefully you come back again sometime. Hopefully, you had a good time here. And I wish you all the best in the rest of your tech journey and your life in general.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna